There we go. All right. Welcome back to the House Week podcast. Drew, welcome back.
What's going on, Brittany? Good to be back.
Good. I feel like it's been a minute.
I was thinking the same exact thing, but I think it's been a month.
Wow. And February was a
Yeah.
short month. So I don't know what
Yeah.
that says about.
Yeah, that's true too. I feel like I keep having the same conversation a lot with patients recently. Be like, can you believe it's the middle of March? And then I'm like, no, like even with the snow days in February, like those days felt really long that they were never going to end. But then all of a sudden we ended up like in the 20s of February. We're like, oh, wow, like it's March next week.
Right.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden March came, 80-degree weather here came. There's a lot
Right.
that feels like it just shifted all at once. Daylight
Yes.
savings, which threw everyone off.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. My dad made me an owl box. Are you familiar with an owl box?
No, what's that?
So, I mean, I don't know. I guess it's kind of self-explanatory, but
Wait, it's a box for owls?
yeah. So basically in the early springtime, I think that's when owls mate or they're like start looking for their homes and things like that, right? And so and these owl boxes have to go between like 15 to 20 feet in the tree, right? And they also have to be facing north. So it has to be north facing and it has to be like in an open area. So 2 weekends ago, I put up our owl box. But then yesterday we had like this 40-degree day and it was just like raining all day too. Yeah. So then I was like, did I pull the trigger too early on this owl box or am I good to go now?
They'll find it, right? It's like,
Yeah.
hey, here's the address.
Right. So that's actually, it's funny you say that. My dog actually, he's really into like killing lizards and moles and voles and stuff like that. So this is gruesome, but every time he kills one, I'll take it and I'll put it by or underneath the box so that the owls can smell the scent. They'll go down, uh, eat the lizard or eat the mole or the vole, and then go up to the box.
Wow.
Yeah.
Your home is like a documentary for nature.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm doing anything right, so I definitely don't deserve a documentary, but I'm I'm trying to be creative. I'm just trying to attract as many owls as possible.
Well, if you ever get one, will you name it? Let's say the same owl comes, are you gonna name it?
Oh yeah. I'm hoping that
Yeah.
it's also going to be a family that because I think
Oh
it's usually
yeah.
like a family that comes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you can get a Hedwig. A Hedwig from Harry Potter?
I've never seen Harry Potter, or I've never even read Harry Potter.
Drew, have you lived under a rock? Okay, also only seen the first like five, so I can't know. But you've never seen them?
No,
You also grew up in the peak era of Harry Potter.
I did. I know. I know I did. I know that's honestly one of the biggest personality flaws of myself. And I'll admit that I don't know who Hedwig is.
So funny. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm assuming Hedwig is an owl.
It's an
And then
owl. They all have an
yeah.
animal. They all have owls. Yeah.
Yeah.
They carry their mail. I
Nice.
think they
So
all
yeah,
do.
so but if you want me to, I'll name it Hedwig.
Okay, great. Here
Yeah.
I am. I'm giving you shit for this, but let's be real. I know next to nothing. Do they all have owls or is it just an animal? I forget. It's like I can't remember.
But yeah. So all in all, yes, the weather has been very nice recently. Yeah.
Yes. All four seasons in a week.
Yeah.
Uh, so imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I was gonna say let's get after it.
Get after it. I know we did our small talk things. Now we gotta do the actual thing.
Yep. So, which direction would you like to go with imposter syndrome? Because I have a couple. I guess before we should even get to that, let's go ahead and define imposter syndrome.
I was gonna say let's define it.
Yep.
So how would you define imposter syndrome?
Um, I would say, I guess I'm going to say what imposter syndrome is not first to narrow down a definition. That I think that sometimes people think that it's a gap of information or knowledge or something that I don't really necessarily know, right? And I guess that's more of a fact that there's a gap of knowledge, right? But I would define imposter syndrome that it's more of a feeling, that there's more of a feeling that do I really necessarily have I done the work in order to necessarily be here right now, right? Rather than, and it's more of a feeling rather than necessarily a fact. Because I think I'll use, um, yeah, I'll use the example of like, for athletes of being like, oh, if I'm making varsity and JV, right? If I'm a talented varsity uh, athlete, I might be a freshman or a sophomore. Have I done the work, or am I talented enough to making sure that I've necessarily earned this spot, right? I would
Right.
say that feeling is imposter syndrome.
Yeah, okay, I'm just gonna shortcut it because here's how the NIH will define it. Okay. Imposter syndrome is an internal experience of chronic self-doubt and fear of being exposed as a fraud, despite evidence of success. It involves attributing accomplishments to luck rather than ability, leading to anxiety, perfectionism, and fear of failure. Common synonyms include fraud syndrome or self-doubt. And then there's different ways that it exists. So it exists like being perfectionistic, attributing things to luck, fear of being found out. The expert, I can't apply for this job because I don't absolutely know everything there is about it yet, and overworking to try and overcompensate.
I really like that one in there about the fear about being found about being found out too.
Which it was the OG definition of imposter syndrome. And I feel like a lot of these terms get broadened out and maybe watered down at the same time, which therapy language tends to have happened given we have the internet. So
Yeah.
that does happen. But I do think that is the core definition or the core key differentiating factor for imposter syndrome is that it's being found out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess we also have to ask the question of being like, what is a part of ourselves that we're worried about other people seeing too? I guess I should also say that like imposter syndrome looks different in so many in and exists in so many different areas too. That yeah, we can go the therapist route, but we can also go the dating route, the sports arena, kind of like the social elements of this too. I guess in my experience, I feel like especially in working with like teens and young adults, the biggest aspect is yeah, social and romantic of being like, do I according to this person's potential checklist, have I checked all the boxes to making sure that I can be friends with them or that I can also be dating them too, right? Or what do I bring to the table? What do I offer a relation? What can I offer a relationship versus like the fear of being found out of like, what if they really see me who I really am too? Or what if they just judge me based off of like my baggage or inexperience being romantic or inexperience being in certain social situations too. And they focus on that versus like what makes me lovable.
Oh, for sure. Right on. Do you want to think the framework of the anxious avoidant attachment vernacular indicates this? If they find out that I'm actually unlovable, then my strategy is to be really anxious and to hope that I can prove myself to them, or it's to push them away and be almost like avoidant to them, or maybe I shut down in myself even. Because I think that there is that doubt, that self doubt of, am I able to be in a relationship that I want to be in? Am I worthy of it? Am I deserving of it? And can they fully love me for all of who I am and not just who I show them to be?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And what am I covering up and how am I like reforming my identity too, right? So especially when we have opportunities to completely like change our entire framework, personality and system too, going into a new school, going into college, going into a new job, I guess joining a run club, things like that, right? But there's so many new opportunities, but then also those but then that baggage doesn't really necessarily the baggage that we bring in and those insecurities that we bring in still has a chance of showing up even though we might have this new framework about ourselves too.
Totally. Because I think when we're doing anything new or scary, that anxiety is going to be there. There may be self-doubt
Yeah.
in a lot of these situations because we get nervous. It might be new, it might be fear of rejection, it might be that new job that I don't know. There's a lot of that's in the unknown, but there's this. Do you know who Seth Godin is? He's a marketer. He was big in the dot-com boom, and he has a blog that he's been writing, I think, every day for the past, I don't know, 20 years or so. Um, he has this quote where he's like, if you've ever experienced imposter syndrome, that's a good thing. It means you're trying something new.
Interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It
So I
means you're
guess the
getting out of
concept
your
of like,
comfort zone.
yeah, comfort zone. Yep. Yeah, I
Yep.
was just gonna say that. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, so now that we've kind of had to define, and especially in working with couples and things like that, is that where you also see that a lot of where the imposter syndrome is most prevalent?
I see it, I think, also in parenting.
Oh, that's a
How
really
do
good one.
I, yeah, because there, and again, not to completely blame the internet, but it's got a lot to it. I don't,
Yep.
it both has helped and hurt. I think that when I could always be doing better, or there are, especially in mom world, that I could always be doing more. There's other people's kids who look picture perfect in their vineyard vines and the family photo, and
Yeah.
why, and I can't even get my kid to smile. You know, there's, I think that there's a lot in parenting where it's because I can always be doing better. Am I actually a good parent?
Yeah. Yeah. Am I actually being a good parent right now? And I think it depends on like the sample size. Like if you're surrounded by a certain population that's going to continuously wear vineyard vines all the time. And I think like the aspect of comparison too. I think that we can repeat to ourselves all day that comparison is a thief of joy, right? So then just don't do it. But then that is just so hard because I feel like some people use imposter syndrome as motivation too. And kind of like what we had talked about a couple podcasts ago of that a shameful statement or negative self-talk is kind of like the catalyst for motivation of well, maybe if I'm feeling imposter syndrome or if I'm feeling uncomfortable, it also means I'm pushing myself. And if I'm pushing myself, that also means that I'm becoming a better mom or I'm becoming a better human being too.
Sure. It's
Yeah.
running on dirty fuel.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's running on fuel that's bad for the environment. It's bad for your environment. It's bad for your mental space.
Yeah.
And it works. And
Yeah.
because in some ways it's like, well, if this is the outcome that I'm getting and I like the outcome, or it just means I need to try harder. And that can also be, I want control of this thing. And if I just try harder, then I feel like I'm in control of it.
Yeah.
Rather than being, this is outside of my control. And if I accept that, then I can feel helpless. I might feel more anxious about it. I might feel even sad or depressed about it.
Yeah.
So the idea that if I keep working to get whatever it is, right? To know more about the job, to know, be the best parent I can be, to be the best athlete there is, then I have control over my circumstances and how I see myself.
Yeah. It's funny that you say the word uh the helpless aspect because I feel like for guys there's this like I'll say that helplessness is definitely the catalyst to like men experiencing irritability of I've been at the same job for who knows how long not I feel like I'm not being recognized and then when I take my kid to soccer they're judging me or I'm judging myself because everybody else seems like they're doing so much or everybody else has the vineyard vines on and I'm just kind of cruising. It appears that everybody else might have like some type of self-direction when I'm just kind of floating right now too, right? And so then there's this helplessness. But I don't know, I guess um for the moms, I think that more I guess turns like the anxiety on too.
Hmm.
Yeah. And if I don't have anxiety, uh then am I self-improving?
Right. Then something's wrong.
Yeah. Right.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That is an interesting frame. I never thought about that for men in that way, the helplessness part.
Man, I'll tell you what, whenever I say the word helplessness, especially when I'm working with with a guy, it seems like their eyes like light up of being like, oh, that's why I'm drinking potentially 2 to 3 beers at night, like whenever my kids are going to bed, or if my wife goes to bed, or this is why I get mad in the mornings and I can't shake this feeling for the rest of the day too, right? That it seems like when they hear the helplessness of being like, or having the framework of like, well, my wife should know better than this. Logically, it just doesn't make sense to them. And so then if it doesn't make sense, and they can't understand it, then they're feeling helpless. Or because they can't, I don't know, they don't know how to validate, right? And then it kind of turns to, I'm just really frustrated with my situation right now too.
Mm.
And I'm potentially even frustrated with my lack of skill set right now too.
I've definitely seen that in couples work.
Yeah, interesting.
Oh, I mean, the quip about couples work is that it's wives dragging in their husbands going, "Why fix him?" Right? That's kind of the, I don't know, joke, I guess, in it. Not that I think it's funny,
But you're right.
because what I hear from men, and because it's not always that's the case, a lot of the times it is, we both feel something, but the guys I think are almost like, I don't want to face that there's something wrong that I'm not doing for you because I feel like I'm doing so much. And
Yeah.
she'll come in and she'll say, what you're not doing a lot. There's a lot that you're not doing. You could be doing better. And I think that that does lead to that irritation and that irritability and that feeling of helplessness because she's going, "Why can't you attune to my emotions?" And he's going, "What are you saying?
Yeah.
What do you
And
mean? I listen to you. I work all day. It's all these things. What do you mean? I took the trash out. I did
yeah.
these things." So I think that for a lot of times, and I remember to throw back to the episode that I did with Justin Karate, and he was talking about vulnerability with men, and he was like, "You work with men through behavior. When you see and you can appreciate a guy for what he does, that's a form of emotional connection. So then, if you want in some ways to work with men in that way, it's like they're going to overcome their helplessness by doing things. And when
Mm.
it's, "Hey, can you attune to my emotions?" It's like, that's not doing something.
And then kind of like to wrap imposter syndrome with this too. Most men believe that, well, my role within the family right now is to be a financial provider, right? And
Right.
so if I'm a financial provider, then that also increases the likelihood of my wife shouldn't feel the need to navigate like these really tough emotions, or I've set up a scenario for my kids not to have these types of emotions. So then why do I have to deal with this from like uh 5 o'clock through 10 o'clock too, right?
Mm. Right.
And also, if I'm not a provider, then also what am I? And also am I actually going? How am I going to be seen? How are my kids and my wife going to be perceive me too? What can I bring to the table? Yeah, what do they think I bring to the table besides being a provider?
Ooh. When you hear a guy say this, how do you respond?
I typically go the attachment route of kind of like what we had talked about, yeah, last time with attachment. I say, tell me about your last vacation. Tell me your memories from your last vacation. And 9 times out of 10, it's a memory of something that went wrong, right? And then I'll say, um, was your kid smiling when your kid tells that same story, do you think they smile? Or when your wife or partner says something like that, do they smile as well? Right? And they're like, yeah, well, I don't know, or whatever, right? And then we talk about like those bonding moments, right? And I say that moment is just as important as whenever your kiddo was born and you're doing like that skin to skin mood regulation too, right? And I was gonna say like that's forming an attachment, and that's forming like your kids care more about that moment than you you having a 9 to 5. So that's what I usually say. Um, that's meant different. I guess that's meant differently at times, right? And then there's a lot of work of like going back to obviously like their own childhood, or their inner child, or like when was the birth of their inner critic, and things like that. So obviously like that statement isn't going to cancel out a lot of their problems, but it's a good segue into talking about like what else can I offer and kind of like revamping a person's identity too, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So sorry to cut you off, but like we talked about earlier, like the fear of being found out. Like, okay, what are different ways for you to be found out right now?
'Cause what do you think, let's take this in a family context. It's the what do you think the fear is of being found out? That I'm not a good dad, that I'm not actually
Uh,
providing, that I'm not good enough?
the aspect of going on a family vacation and them them seeing you make a mistake and then everybody laughing about it. Of that, oh, like there's comic relief that comes from this. Oh, you mean to tell me that they're gonna think like, oh, dad's not Superman anymore. Dad's not. I don't have a dad that doesn't know anything, right? They see
Mm.
dad make a mistake and they realize, oh, like this is funny right now, or this is a story that I can continue to tell like my friends and talk about it at school and things like that too.
Yeah. The Brené Brown in her research around shame found that embarrassment is the core emotional experience for men when it
Mm.
comes to shame.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And especially, yeah, I know I keep repeating it, like of being found out. And I guess that's an aspect of embarrassment is basically a microscope of of being seen too.
Yeah, it's revealing something. And I
Yeah.
and I wonder how many times is embarrassment masked with anger to then kind of manage it.
Yeah. Do you mind if I tell a quick story?
Go for it.
So before I became a therapist, I think I had told you at one point in time that I was a trivia host. So I used to go around and I would sell trivia programs to like bars and restaurants, and then I would do the show, right? And growing up, I'm not the best public speaker. I'm a terrible reader. If you want to say what's the hardest thing you can do, Drew, like tell me to read a book from cover to cover. It's just difficult for me, right? All that being said, I became a trivia host because I don't know, that was fun to me. And I thought that I was going to be effective at it. And so I would have friends that would come and people I went to high school with, and I was just like reconnecting with people. But in the back of my mind, I was like, all these people know that I can't read well. And so it was probably my second or third night leading trivia. I had the microphone and the speakers were blaring. Thanksgiving. It was Thanksgiving Eve, one of the biggest nights to go out in, right? And I remember asking this question of how many miles, how many approximately, how many miles long is the Mojave Desert? But instead of Mojave, I said Mojave,
Yes.
and it was honestly like one of the most embarrassing moments of my entire life. But honestly, to this very day, I mean, that happened probably like 10, maybe 12 years ago, right? But to this very day, like my sisters talk about it, my family talks about it, my like a good significant portion of like people that I know in Pittsburgh talk about it. And like even when see the word desert, like my mind goes back to that. Yeah. Yeah.
So how has this emotional experience evolved for you?
So I guess I remember how sweaty I got, and I remember that like I kind of just smiled and I was like, I want to like I want to I want to bury myself right now. Like I want to be anywhere in this world but here right now too. And that was one of the most embarrassing things of my life, right? And it brought me back to I don't know, so many different parts of, yeah, so many different memories of like school and things like that. So it was one of them, and being familiar with a lot of different people, right? But now that was like a rebirth of how I see embarrassing moments too. And I think how people respond to embarrassing moments also is a form of like approachability too, right? That people seeing my reaction to being embarrassed and my acceptance of being embarrassed and kind of like using it as a tool to, I don't know, give permission to other people and to myself to like it was a hilarious moment.
Sure. Because it
Yeah.
could happen. These things happen to anyone, right? It just
Yeah.
like you so happen to be in front of people having the microphone in your hand. I mean, when I think about embarrassing moments and you work with teens and young adults, as a teenager, it's the most crippling experience you can possibly have because you
Yeah.
just think everyone's going to hold on to this experience forever. And this is now what people are going to think of me.
Yeah.
And I think as an adult, at least for me, I've reframed it in my head as everyone has experienced something like this. And I don't know that I care that much.
Yeah.
I mean, I've fallen so many times. Well, I'm very clumsy, and it's just a joke that
Like
I'm clumsy. Like
like physically just like falling to the
physically
ground?
fallen. Yes, I've
Yeah.
fallen downstairs. I've fallen while running. I've fallen a lot.
Yeah.
And some people are like, "Oh my gosh, like were you so embarrassed?" I'm like, "Well, first off, when your hands are bleeding, it's really hard to like be embarrassed and also be in pain at the same time."
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
also in the moment, sure, but on the flip side, I'm just thinking, yeah, and hasn't everyone at some point in time had a
Yeah.
moment that was kind of embarrassing? Like one time there was a line of cars parked at a light and you could tell everyone watched. I was running up a hill and you can just, and it was a morning commute rush hour time and you can just tell.
Um,
And because I looked up and I saw people in their
yeah.
cars, like if everyone could make that unanimous ooh sound,
Yeah.
that's what would have happened for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Wow.
yeah, you just
Man,
move on.
you're just
Yeah.
moving on. So
Yeah.
so that's
It's
so
always that way.
for me, I kind of just use it as like, okay, this is an experience that's going to like springboard kind of like my personality and make me more approachable, which is something that I want to do. But for you,
Right.
you were like, well, you normalize it. You were like, well, everybody goes through this, or every adult has gone through this at one point in time. And so you're
Yeah.
like, who cares? Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. Interesting. So, I mean, this is also really important to, I guess, the aspect of imposter syndrome of being like of perfectionism is really and like getting high up in a company and being like, oh, like they sit down and their chair makes like a farting noise, right? And being
Ooh.
like, oh my gosh, I'm embarrassed about this right now because I'm supposed to appear professional and things like that. Right. Yeah. You know, what is embarrassment going to lead to too?
Yeah, because if we think about what is embarrassment, it's what everyone else is thinking about me in the moment.
Yeah.
It's a sheer I'm anxious about what other people are thinking about me in this moment right now.
Yeah. Continue on the, I guess with the social aspect. Um, the dating, I guess the dating culture too, right? The dating culture of imposter syndrome. Because I feel like I also hear the like the performative of I feel like I'm performing for other people right now, or if I'm going to um speed dating. If I'm going to speed dating and I only have 2 minutes, I feel it feels like more of a performance or a job interview, or I'm just trying to check the boxes of somebody else too, right? Or maybe somebody else deserves to be in my seat. You know what I mean? Um, yeah, I've seen imposter syndrome a lot with that as well.
Interesting. Yeah. Should I be so lucky that someone finds me attractive? And Chris Rock has this great quote in one of his stand-ups where he goes, when you're on a first date with someone, you're not meeting them, you're meeting the representative. And I just think how true that is for, and here's the thing, right? Is that when I, because I think with dating, there's so many nuances to it. You can tell when someone's imposter syndrome is endorsing them to perform. And if there's a performance, someone else is most likely going to sense that.
Yeah,
When someone's anxious about meeting someone for the first time, you're on a date and you are attracted to that person, and it's like, okay, I'm nervous, I'm anxious about what they think of me.
yeah,
And in some ways, that's normal, right? I think that if we think of this in doses, like having a tablespoon of that, appropriate dose, right? Having a pound of that, not an appropriate dose.
yeah,
So I think that it's also knowing like what is the dose that I of this emotional experience that I'm having right now?
Yeah.
And how can I decrease the dose of that? If I feel like I'm overdosing on this anxious thought about what the other person's thinking of me, then how can I start to scale that back to, okay, I know, here's what I like about myself. I think that's a great exercise to start to help with, especially the dating imposter syndrome aspect. What do I like about myself? What do I know about me to be true? What have friends and family told me about me to be true? It's
Yeah.
it's kind of going like, what do people told me in my life that they like about me, and what do I like about me, and how
Yeah.
do I stay grounded in that and bring that onto the date?
Yeah. It's funny you said that. I don't know if you ever give out homework like that, but actually, I just assigned it to one of my interns that I said, okay, go like ask your friends, ask your close friends who you know that's going to be real with you, just about how they feel like that you are seen in multiple different scenarios of like when you go to a restaurant, whenever you go to, when you guys are just like at your house, just hanging out, or you are at yoga or anything like that, right? And base those, yeah, I guess those are perceptions, but also like on facts of like what people have said to you too. And like people who also know you as well versus versus going on a date of a person who actually doesn't really know you yet.
Because
Yeah.
it relational self-awareness,
Yeah.
you're getting more data that's outside of you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it definitely breaks that up, but man, it I like the example with like the dosing of like it's good to have a couple of teaspoons, but I don't know. I guess that's where it is as far as like a person's tolerance in allowing themselves to be embarrassed. Of I wonder if it's a different amount of dosages or what that looks like when we're talking about feeling that we're overdosing at that point in time.
I hear it as a fear of rejection. If I show up and I'm my true self and this person still rejects me, then they're rejecting the full me. If I show up and I'm partially myself, then they're rejecting the persona that I gave them, not the full me. So
True.
I think that it's a protective strategy. I guess use an example. It's, guy and a girl on a date, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I love the band Tool," and she goes, "Oh, same," and she's never heard a song.
Yeah.
it, it's like, okay, yeah, we're
Yeah.
be trying to, I'll say, manipulate the scenario because
Yeah.
we're fearful of rejection. If I say I've never heard that band before in my life, tell me more. Am I gonna feel embarrassed? Am I gonna feel like you know something that I
Completely.
don't? Like, whatever it might be, right?
Yeah.
Is this gonna be a deal breaker? Because I don't know your favorite band.
Yeah.
It could be that there's a million stories that go on that kind of lead to the, oh yeah, same. And it's such a quick thing
Yeah.
that can feel benign, right?
Yeah.
And I think that this happens for a lot of people. It's like sometimes you just say, "Oh yeah, uh-huh, sure," and you kind of are quick to agree, and then all of a sudden you're like, "Why did I agree to that?" or "Why did I do that?"
Yeah.
But I think that it's in part to overcome rejection, and that is the knee-jerk strategy to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Uh, Big time. And then rejection can kind of be I guess the oil to what we were talking about earlier, but being like of the negative self-talk too, right? It starts off as, yeah, I've heard that band, or no, I've heard that band, and then being like, oh, why did I say that? Am I really good at dating? Am I lovable? And then it just kind of spirals from there, right?
Yeah, and I know that I just used this as a strategy, or I know that I was feeling anxious, or I know that that's not my true self. And at
Yeah.
some point, if they find out that that's not really me, will they still be attracted to me?
Yeah. And I guess like, and this can exist in multiple different scenarios too, of like, I mean, you say yes to one thing and then you're compromising your own values too, right? Of like, yeah, did you say the band Tool?
Yeah.
So if I say, oh yeah, I gave myself permission to lie to the fact that I know the band Tool, but then what else are you going to be? giving your permission to lie about too, to kind of like fit this mold, right? And then you're really gonna probably, I mean, I don't even know if it's imposter syndrome at that point. It's maybe even like an identity crisis at that point too, because now you've compromised so much of things, so many things to fit this mold that you don't even know who you are anymore too.
Right. For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that it becomes people pleasing as a form of people manipulating.
Yeah.
And I'm manipulating the other person and I'm manipulating myself.
Yeah. I'm going to use an example. I'm just going to use a beer league example.
Okay.
Okay. For um for like beer league hockey, that you have to be good at you have to be good at one of two things to be successful. You either have to be really good.
I have
Sorry.
a question. Are you drinking beer and playing hockey?
No. No, it's just like they just call it like they call it beer league. Um I guess basically like you have beers after the game, sometimes before
Oh,
the game. So that's why but they just call it beer league because it's like a recreational hockey.
it's a casual
Recreational
hockey.
hockey outside of red side of professional hockey.
So I say, I
Yeah.
think it'd be really hard to drink and skate because
Yeah. But people do it.
sorry.
It's actually
Sorry,
crazy.
I had to clarify. Go on.
You're good. Yeah, I'm glad you clarified. I don't know. Yeah. But so yeah, for rec hockey or beer league, you have to be good at one or two things. And maybe it's also the same for run club of you have to be good at you have to be good in the locker room. You have to have a personality. You have to be one with the guys or girls, right? Or you have to be really good on the ice. And sometimes if you're not at least one of those, you might have a tough time too. So, and I wonder if it's the same thing for run club of either you have a really good personality and that you're able to make that social connection, or you have to be really fast and really knowledgeable about running too, about having those qualities.
I could see that because it
Yeah.
gives you status. If you're good at it,
Yeah.
it gives you status.
Yeah.
If you're sociable, then it gives you a way to connect.
Absolutely. Um, Oh, that's where I was going. We were talking about the dating aspect and figuring out that when a person has to be one of two of those things, if they find themselves good at one thing and feeling like, we'll use Run Club for example. Well, I really enjoy like the social connectivity that I have here, but I feel like I'm not really necessarily being seen as like a good runner, right? So what if I take on this more serious persona and be like, well, I want to improve my splits. I want to improve my mile time. I want to take it a little bit more seriously. But you're typically seen as maybe like this approachable, goofy, let it all hang out type of person, right? You do that, and then all of a sudden, like you might start to experience like I guess even an identity crisis, and even potentially more uh, imposter syndrome too, of being like, well, now I'm feeling even more distressed because I'm trying to pretend about being something that I'm not right now.
It's think group environments like this are so interesting because there's a lot of elements that are applicable to
Yeah.
almost a social science experiment. Because you have a status based on how good you are at the thing.
Yeah.
And I was talking with a friend today, and we were talking about this one somewhat elite run club. And we all, from the outside and from, how it presented on social media and everything else, I thought these are all the elite runners and they're the cool kids. If you're getting, potentially sponsored by Nike or you're, placing in these distance races, you're one of the cool kids. And then you get there and you start to all run together and you kind of form connections, but they're barely talking or there is like a social awkwardness and it's like,
Yeah.
oh right, in my mind you were so elite and but you're also a human too. So it kind of
Yeah.
breaks that barrier. So then when you come in as, let's say, not as fast or not as good at the thing, but you come in and you're more sociable and relatable,
Yeah.
I think that carries more weight in some
Yeah.
ways because it's so transferable. It's not just based in are you good or not.
That's
Um,
true. Yeah.
but it does help with pretty much any social situation.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the creator of Mad Men and The Sopranos. The theory behind both of those shows was if I create characters who can do really shitty things but are really good at their job, people will cheer for them.
Mm, interesting.
And it's kind of true
Yeah.
because people were like, Don Draper was kind of shitty, but we all were cheering for him in some way. Tony Soprano definitely kind of did a lot of shitty
Yeah.
things, but
Yeah.
everyone, you're kind of cheering for him. You're kind of like, but I kind of want him to win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if that has any aspects of like why America always roots for the underdog. Uh, the underdog might seem a little bit more human and approachable versus rooting for the New England Patriots, and them winning all the time and creating that dynasty. And that fan group just knows how to win versus they can no longer relate to any other franchise and being like, well, come and join us in the slums. The Pittsburgh Pirates haven't won. That's a different sport, but the Pittsburgh Pirates I had 24 straight losing seasons. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So I don't
So,
know. I know you use it, yeah, as
yeah,
far as a sports example.
it would be an interesting study to do and why the underdog story
Yeah.
is we like to see what's possible. I think a lot of people see themselves as the underdog in a lot of situations. So whether that's in dating or in sports or in their job, it's like, all right, if I'm coming in and I'm the new person on the team and I have to prove myself in some way, if I'm seeing myself as an underdog, it gives me a little bit of an edge because now I have something to overcome and I have something to prove.
Maybe as we were talking about self-talk earlier, of like, is negative self-talk and that shame statement um oil for being an underdog, right? Of like, okay, does that make me want to be an underdog as far as like things that I'm proving, or is an underdog story becoming more of a sense of like I I feel like that I don't deserve to be here, but I'm going to I have to work to prove myself. So I wonder what the underdog is accompanied by. You know what I mean?
Is it chip on the shoulder? Is
Yeah.
it, yeah, is it, this gives me an excited way to look at a challenge?
Right. Yeah. And I don't know. It's funny. I really struggle with the um like the glass half full. Like I'm probably one of the furthest things from a pessimist. I'm a blissful optimist, probably actually to a fault a lot of times too. Um, and so when someone says something on the lines of like, well, I'm a glass half full type of person, so I don't have to experience the drop. That if I have the if I have a chip on my shoulder and I am not expecting to get that job and I don't get that job, well, I don't have to deal with the disappointment then, right? And it's just easier to navigate through life. Or if I get rejected and things like that, and that is for me, that's really difficult to identify with and relate to.
Yeah. Do you have clients who kind of have that mental framework?
Oh yeah, big time.
Well, how do you work with that?
Personally, or like, what do I say to that?
What do you say to that? Like, if I'm coming in, I'm like, well, better to stay disappointed. The better, because I think, okay, when in terms of dating, I think this actually is has been more quietly insidious in dating culture, where
Yeah,
people are actually going, well, I've just experienced it not working out for so long. I just expect it to not work out
yeah, yeah,
because that's all I've known. And if 40, I think it's either 43 or 46% of America right now in adulthood are single, and which is the highest it's ever been.
wow,
So if, and I think that if almost half
yeah,
of the population is
yeah,
experiencing this, then it might be like, well, for the past, if someone started dating when they were 16 and they're like, yeah, 17 years, it just hasn't worked out. So why would I expect it to work out?
yeah, yeah,
Might as well stay chronically mid or
yeah,
disappointed or just neutral and not excited about it because if you get excited, you're just going to be back at square one.
yeah. Um, Man, that's a tough question. What do I typically say to that? I don't know. I want to say like a typical therapy. I want to say like a typical therapy pants answer of being like, well, how's that working out for you? I know that's like the default in my brain of like where it should go to, of being like, well, how's that working out for you? And then how to get you to this point too, right? But I usually actually go to like their very first relationship of like, oh, tell me why you adopted that framework. And like whether it was a breakup in like when they were a sophomore in high school or whatever, right? Usually I'll say that or tell me the first time when you felt disappointment too, right? Or when was the most disappointed that you've ever felt? Things probably things of that nature too. Yeah. Or sometimes I'll use a here and now of saying, have you ever felt disappointment in this room? And that kind of, or online, and that kind of gets people going too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
has someone said yes?
There's been a few times. Um, I think people have a desire for therapy to work a little bit more quickly. And then there's probably been, I can't think of it right now. Um, if people are bringing up a certain subject and it's accompanied by a feeling of disappointment. Yeah. So yeah, I appreciate that because people are honest, right?
Um,
Um, so yes, but I love using the here and now. I think it breaks into another chapter of vulnerability too. And I think that people really appreciate me asking about that. And I think there's more tangible work that we can utilize versus being like, oh, tell me a time outside of this room where you were really disappointed too. Like using the here and now, I feel like, um, I mean, even selfishly for me, it provides a lot more insight too.
For sure. It's
Yeah,
using the therapeutic relationship as a tool for the emotional experience. And
definitely.
so if I even think of this through like an emotionally focused therapy lens or like an AEDP lens is like not that I'm trained in AEDP, but it's using the therapist as the attachment figure for a client.
Definitely.
And I think that you don't have to be trained in it to conceptualize that
Yeah,
the relationship is if we heal in relationships, it's quite literally using the therapeutic relationship to heal.
right.
And it's saying like, "Hey, have you felt disappointed here? Tell me more about that." And and you're being the empathic person who's getting really curious about it and being really compassionate with it, that it starts to heal the idea that no one can make me feel disappointed because otherwise then I will crumble or I will be a disappointment or then the relationship will never work, that it does break some of that frame.
Man, I really like how you just said that too about being curious, how curiosity can also equal empathy. Of I have this person sitting across from me and being curious about my emotions from an objective point of view in showing how we can be and showing how to be objective versus subjective and so harsh on our own emotions of like of being disappointed too, rather than being like, wow, why am I always disappointed right now too, right?
Hmm. For
Yeah,
sure.
but yeah, because I think that this is a topic for another day, but I think that sometimes I think our society has created like the only way that we can show validation and empathy is through our words, um, or through a statement and a reflection. But there's so many ways that we can hold an empathetic space.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Silence is the best tool. Nonverbal communication and a simple act of thoughtfulness. There's so many ways.
yeah. So, but I really like the way that you just said that. But yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I'll tell you what, we covered a lot of different aspects of
we
imposter
did.
syndrome. Yeah.
All right. So let's do this. What is an actual takeaway? Let's say someone is struggling with the I'm an imposter, and if someone finds me out, the world is gonna crumble. Or I'm only here based off of luck.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So where should someone begin?
I guess a little bit of IFS as far as like what are your protective parts protecting right now, right?
Mhm.
Almost creating this of having an, I mean, it's tough to say, well, stop thinking negatively, because they initially they don't want to lose that framework, right? So how
Mhm.
do you adopt like this big sister, big brother, uh, the mindset of being like, well, I have this inner critic, and I also have something that could potentially make me feel protective, and also something that's going to create like safety nets for me of being like, well, if I do have this fear of I am being found out, and I do fall, what's going to catch me? And usually that's going to be a big brother or a big sister too, and adopting that framework as well. So that's something that I know that's going back to attachment based, but that's something I'll use a lot in the room of being like, if they have siblings or I'll say like a close friend, like tell me when's the time that you felt most loved by a sibling, right? And what did they do? How did they care for you? How did they show empathy, right? Or like the bad family vacation, right? And then we'll introduce like how to incorporate it into like their everyday monologue.
Mhm. Oh, I like that. I like that a
Yeah.
lot. I like that using the attachment and relational framework
Yeah.
to help with that. It's sometimes easier to see it outside of ourselves. Like when therapists ask a question, what would you tell a friend? I'll never forget. I was so annoyed when my therapist asked me that. This was years ago, and I'll never forget it. She was like, "Well, what would you tell a friend?" And I was like, "Really? Like that's what we're going?" And I was like, "Okay, fine. I'll play the game." But like
Yeah,
it does
right.
work because yeah, it does work to kind of help have that externalization.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, kind of like it decenters us from our feelings, that it's not necessarily invalidating, but it's no longer about us too. And I know I always say like the term safety nets, but like creating as many safety nets as possible. So then you know that like uh so then you know that okay, if I do take the risk of being seen, I know something's going to catch me. And developing the theme of I know that I'm going to be okay either way. So I don't know if that's right or wrong, and I don't know, therapy's such a gray area, but that's where I would go.
The beauty is that it's neither right or wrong. It's just an art
Yeah.
form, and it's how do you want to paint?
Yeah.
But I like it because it's a very practical takeaway.
Yeah.
It's yeah, very simple and practical.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Would
yeah.
you do anything different?
Um, so I like the how is this benefiting you? What is this doing for you?
Yeah.
I always love using that frame because I think it is trying to do something for us. And a lot of people say, well, nothing, right? It's not doing anything good. And it's like, well, it's doing something. So let's get to what how it's trying to benefit so you can
Yeah.
understand what it's trying to protect. Um, and I think that getting to the core of like, what is it that this strategy is trying to protect? If it is, let's say, um, pushing people away to try and, manage the fear of rejection or being found out, then
Yeah.
it might be, okay, so what is it that you're afraid to see inside of yourself? What are some of
Yeah.
the points that you have about you? What are some of the stories and kind of using some of the narrative therapy work of what's the story that you have about you that
Right.
someone else might see? And can I see that? And can we work through that together?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. No, I like that too. I don't use narrative therapy enough. But yeah, there's a lot of good work that could be done in there too.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that narrative therapy, it's like something that we all slightly use. It's just maybe
Yeah.
not done in the exact framework that, there's some training out there about it.
It's one of those trains that you look at and you're like, "Oh, yeah, I should do that one day," and then you kind of forget about it.
Right.
Yeah,
There's too many options for trainings,
I
but
know. Yeah.
topic for another time.
Yes.
All right. Thank you again for coming on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, as always, it's been a pleasure.
Sweet. This was great. And until next time, everyone, stay connected.
Alright, bye.